Okay, so today's lesson is 2.1, Introduction to Integers. So an integer is a set of whole numbers and their opposite. An example of an integer would be 4, -8, 12, -456. What is not an integer is anything with a decimal or a fraction. For example, if you have 1.2, -8.3, and 1/2. So when we're talking about integers, we're talking about whole numbers and its opposite, so which means negative numbers. Absolute value is the distance from 0 on a number line. It is always positive. We will talk about absolute value as we work down below. Graph. So this is a direction that you'll find in your classwork and homework. Graph each integers and its opposite on a number line. So an example is -6. So let's do this one together. So first thing you do, always put an arrow for your number line. That tells you that the number line continues on forever. If you don't have these arrows, that means that you'll get a half a point off. So I always start with a 0 in the middle. It says -6. -6 is on the left-hand side, so you always start closest to 0 and put -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and -6. So and then I'm going to graph it, so put a dot where that tally mark is. But then it says its opposite, so the opposite of -6 is +6. So here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you make the graph. And there you go. That is how you graph its integers and its opposite on the number line. So push pause and try number 2. When you're done, go ahead and push play and see if you got the same answer as I did. Alright, so you should have put your arrow showing that the number line goes on forever. Put a 0 in the middle, and since it's +5, you're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and make sure you put your numbers underneath the number line, and then you have a +5. Then you have the opposite of +5, which is -5, -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5, and make the dot. So that's how you graph an integer and its opposite. Here's the next direction. It says to compare the integers using less than or greater than. Here's a hint. Any number that is on the left-hand side is always smaller. Any number that is on the right-hand side is bigger. So if this is your number line, here's your 0. Remember your arrow. And the way I remember less than is because the arrow is pointing to the less than place. And remember how I remember greater than is that the arrow is pointing to on the right-hand side. So anything on the left-hand side is always going to be smaller. Anything on the right-hand side is bigger. So let's look at 3 and 4. Look at -9 and -12. Some of you guys, it might be easier if you would just make a number line and you write -9, -10, -11, -12. Well, -9 is on the right-hand side, so that's greater than -12 because it's -12 is on the left-hand side, so -9 is greater than -12. Number 4 says 8 is what to -10? 8 is greater than or less than -10? Hopefully you said greater than because 8 is on the right-hand side, -10 is on the left-hand side. Try number 5 and 6 on your own. Push pause, and then when you're ready, you can go ahead and push play. 2 is greater than -2 because 2 is on the right-hand side, -2 is on the left-hand side. -18 is less than -1 because -18 is on the left-hand side, -1 is on the right-hand side. Here's the next direction. It says use the number line to order the integers from least to greatest. So just like you did numbers 1 and 2, you're going to make your arrow, make your 0, and then I look here. My biggest number is 8 for the positive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. and my lowest number is negative 6, so it'll be negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and negative 6. And then you're just going to put a dot above each number, 8, so I'm going to graph each one of these. Negative 4 I'm going to graph, 0 I'm going to graph, 5 graph, and negative 6 graph. Once you have this on the number line, you just read it left to right because that's least to greatest. So it's negative 6, negative 4, 0, 5, and 8. Try number 8, example 8. You can go ahead and push pause, and then when you're ready, you can go ahead and push play. So you should have made the arrows. Just, if you remember, if you don't, you're a half a point off. And looky here, they're all negative. So I'm going to put my 0 here and just put my negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so you have negative 3, negative 1, negative 5, and negative 12. So now you're going to, once you have placed them on your number line, you're just going to read left to right. So now the order is negative 12, negative 5, negative 3, and negative 1. That is least to greatest. And the last direction is, what is the absolute value? The distance from 0, always positive. So when we're talking about absolute value, we're asking you how far away is that number from 0. So let's look at number 9. Says absolute value is always written with 2 parallel lines, not a parentheses, it's 2 parallel. So negative 5, the absolute value of negative 5, or it's saying how far is negative 5 from 0, and the answer is 5. The answer is always positive. Look at number 10. So here it's saying the absolute value of 8 is, or how far is 8 away from 0, and the answer is 8. Try 11 and 12 on your own. So how far away is negative 23 from 0, or what is the absolute value of negative 23? Hopefully you had written 23. And number 12, the absolute value of 14 is 14 because 14 is 14 away from 0.